This is kind of a crazy story. I was watching the news the other day and saw this and kind of did a double take thinking, oh, okay, well, I guess these kind of stories happen. Someone apparently in Toronto had found out that their home that they owned and lived in had been sold from under them, and they had absolutely no idea. Now, I thought when I saw it, as I said, this was kind of a one-off.
Once in a blue moon, right?
It could happen if something happened. Mm-hmm. No, it's happened not once, not twice, but apparently at least 30 different times in the Greater Toronto area.
This is wild.
This is crazy. Brian King is president of King International Advisory Group and investigating exactly how this is happening and perhaps why it's happening. He's on the line right now. Mr. King, thanks so much for your time this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Aaron and Natasha.
Let's begin with, first of all, the basics for how this does happen. What do the people who are ripping these people off do? Is there a standard sort of a ploy here?
Yeah, it's pretty organized. These people know what they're doing. They have some experience at how real estate works, and quite frankly, they're able to sell a house out from underneath a homeowner. Typically, when someone is away for a period of time, they can do it. And in the particular circumstances that you're seeing in the media right now, not only did they sell the home, but they sold the home to an unsuspecting buyer who renovated afterwards, and additionally, all of their furnishing was stolen and sold and gone from the house as well. So it was one of the more severe cases that we've seen.
Okay, walk me through one scenario because I'm still trying to grasp this. Someone discovers that someone is away from their home. Do they pick a particular neighborhood, or is this done at random from what you've seen?
It's not done at random. These people do a lot of research. They do information gathering before they strike a home, and typically they're looking for a home with a high equity value. In other words, no existing mortgages on it, so the return will be higher, or a low mortgage, first mortgage with considerable equity. So they're typically looking at a home that has been owned by one particular homeowner for a number of years, and then they target it. They're well organized. They know. They research the people. They develop a fraudulent ID for them and have people impersonate the homeowners to do the transaction. So they're very organized.
Holy cow!
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please, you go ahead.
Yeah. So they know exactly what they're targeting beforehand. They have access to MLS listings, Terranet, typically for a total title transfer, because there's different types of this fraud. But for a total title transfer, that's where they actually sell the property as opposed to just putting a fake mortgage on it. They gain access to the house through Airbnb rental or someone that's leasing their house because they're going to be away for 6 months or something like that. This recent case, the young couple that owned the house their young executives had a job transfer to England for a 2-year period, so they were gone for the home. So they knew these people were away, and there wouldn't be anybody to interfere with the process.
I had a dumb question, which is how are they able to access this information? How could you find out so much?
For you and I as a normal, citizen, we find it amazing. But for the world of the fraudsters, they get access they recruit sources. They'll pay people within banks to give them information. They infiltrate federal and provincial ministries like the Ministry of Transport. Sometimes it's stolen identification that they obtain on the internet. Stolen mail. There's a number of ways that these groups are obtaining the information about the homeowners. Nothing is sacred anymore.
I have to say, what really blows my mind is, yes, okay, the scamming aspect of it, but you're scamming the individuals who own the home and who are buying the home, but you're also scamming the banks, the mortgage brokers, or whoever else is involved. I'm stunned that they can get away with it on that level. And then what happens, Brian? Do these people actually lose their homes? Are they able to get them back? What happens?
Well, to the first part of that, I mean, these people are good. They're not amateurs. Right. These people the identifications, just like you said, that they create look real. In other words, they're able to pass the sniff test with the lawyers involved, because every transaction of this nature involves identification verification. For us trained investigators, when we see it afterwards, we see the red flags that aren't picked up by the lawyers or the real estate agents or professionals involved. But the unfortunate part of it is that, all of this transaction is done through the legal means. So that means that it has to be undone. And sometimes that can take as much as a year to a year and a half to undo this. You just don't all of a sudden say, I was subject to fraud. I want my house back. You now have to hire a lawyer and go through the process, because, of course, the poor person that unsuspectingly bought the house thinks that he's purchased a house, and they've moved in.
Oh, my God.
So what happens to those, as you call them, poor people who find out this has happened to them? You kind of mentioned it's not a straightforward matter saying, I never signed the paper, this wasn't me.
No, and the law is pretty clear in most instances. I would say 99% of the time, unless there was some reason, that the law is very clear that the home remains, and it eventually will be turned back to the rightful owner. It's just that all of these things take time, because the registration and everything is all done through land titles and through the proper method. So sometimes it can take, like I say, it can take several months to, most of the cases that I've worked, it's been close to a year and a half before title is reversed.
Well, and where does the money go? So do the people who have bought the house get their money back, and the people who lost their house get their house back?
If they have title insurance, then they're covered. And I always recommend to anyone from the public, consumers, make sure you have title insurance, because it wasn't very vogue in Canada prior to about the mid-2000s. Title insurance has been around in the U.S. for a long time, but it wasn't here. So I recommend anybody that bought their home prior to 2000 to check with their real estate lawyer to see whether or not they purchased title insurance. And if they did not, go out and purchase it, because it's relatively inexpensive when as insurance is concerned, and it's a one-time payment. It's not like car insurance where you're paying it every year. But so I always tell people, make sure you're protected, because we're seeing a bit of an epidemic right now in the Greater Toronto area of these types of frauds.
By the way, when you say title insurance, I had no idea, and I'd heard it in the U.S. When you buy a house now, I'm not sure if the rules are different in Ontario than they are in Quebec. Does the notary or whoever's doing that sale or the bank or the mortgage company not kind of offer you title insurance, or do you have to actually know to ask for it?
Typically now, most financial institutions and lenders will not do a loan to a home unless their title insurance is purchased, whether it's for a first mortgage transaction or a second mortgage. Typically now the lenders are asking for title insurance, but the homeowner should also get title insurance. Okay. Just to be protected. And again, it's relatively inexpensive insurance for peace of mind.
Any reports of this happening in Montreal, or so far it's really just in the Greater Toronto area?
Yeah, we've got 2 cases in Montreal right now that we're working on.
And we have no idea. You mentioned organized crime, I guess, might be involved in this, but we have no specific leads that that's what's going on here, although you mentioned they're very well organized. Sounds like they might be involved here.
Well, we know just because of the sheer numbers that we're working, because they also are involved in what's called mortgage fraud. That's where they place a second mortgage on a home to get those proceeds by impersonating people. A little easier than a total title transfer, but the rewards are not quite as high. But we're talking millions of dollars here. I mean, you look at the price of a home in the U.S. or in the Greater Toronto area, and most homes are $1.5 million to $2 million. So, as one police officer said to me, it's it has the lowest risk with the highest reward of any types of frauds that they deal with.
All right. And in terms of warning people, I'm sure some people hearing this are thinking, holy, how's this even possible? The idea of title insurance would be really the only way you could sort of do anything about this, right? There's nothing else you can do?
No.
Okay.
I mean, if it happens, like I said, typically it will get returned to the rightful owner, but then you have to pay for all your legal fees and already, so it's a substantial amount of money to get it reversed because you have to demonstrate that it was a fraud.
It's up to you to prove that, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. King, I thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
You bet. Brian King from King International Advisory. Not one, not two, not three, 30, at least 30 different transactions like this in Toronto alone.
And 2 in Montreal now.
Wow.